Well, our Solange Moujan joins me on the set now to talk a bit more about the Super Bowl. Solange, you're going to take us to New Orleans. But what I love about this segment today is you're going to tell us all about the Super Bowl from a non-sports fan's perspective. This is made for me.
Yeah, exactly. It's made for me too. I've often wondered if we make too much about the Super Bowl, and I'm going to try and break down some of the good, the bad, and the ugly about this mega event and what makes it such a draw. Because Super Bowl 59 is a prime example of the money, the politics, the celebrity in sports. And the halftime show is, for many, the thing to watch, and not the sports prowess of the Eagles beating the Chiefs 40-22. It was the TV ads and the debate over whether Kendrick Lamar would play his song Not Like Us, or whether he would not play it, that many people were watching for. But before we get into that, I need to make a sort of personal disclaimer here. I, like many Americans, I don't know if this is true for Eugenie as well, have spent many hours of my life watching football. I painted my face blue and gold and cheered for my team in high school. And some of my family members watch a Monday Night Football religiously. But I barely understand what a third down is. Fumble, interception, and touchdown is pretty much as far as I go. Rather, I am that annoying person from a football fan's perspective who is increasingly worried about what this sport actually does to players' minds. And it is not good. Since the early 2000s, study after study have shown that the risks of tackle football have on young people and also on professionals. Harvard Medical School walks us through how there is a growing evidence that it causes brain disease because of repeated concussions. Last year, they published a study of 2,000 players, former NFL players, and they found that a third of them think that they have signs of CTE, or chronic traumatic encephalopathy. It can only be confirmed by autopsy, but the symptoms can be debilitating with higher chances of suicidal thoughts, chronic pain, depression, self-harm. And families in the U.S. are increasingly knowledgeable about this risk. And so fewer children are playing football. Participation has fallen 17% since 2006, when more than 1 million American boys played the sport. As the Washington Post told us in December, it is still the most popular boys' sports in high schools, but who's playing is changing on political and also on racial lines, with liberals and Democrats being more likely to discourage playing, and also in states that voted for Biden, for example, there's fewer players. In Trump ones, at least for the 2020 election, there were 1.5 times more children playing, they had 1.5 times more chance of playing than those who voted for Biden.
Right, and there are a lot of medical concerns, as you say, Solange, but still, people in America do love football. So let's talk a bit more about the Super Bowl last night. Lots of VIPs there, including U.S. President Donald Trump.
Yeah, last night, the New Orleans Caesar Superdome, Donald Trump became the first sitting president to attend the Super Bowl. Now, Trump has a complicated relationship with the NFL. He actually owned a team of a sort of an upstart that was rival to the league. But beyond that, many of his own politics align with the powerful and influential NFL. And many football fans align with him as well. And the media frenzy that surrounds the Super Bowl is right up his alley. He, for example, commented on the fact that Taylor Swift was booed at the game, and he wrote, "The only one that had a tougher night than Kansas City Chiefs was Taylor Swift. She got booed out of the stadium. MAGA is very unforgiving," end quote. So by attending, Trump actually made the Super Bowl even more political when it is already incredibly so, particularly in regard to racism. For this Super Bowl, despite the fact that it has been there since 2021, the NFL removed the "End Racism" slogans that were stenciled at the end zones. Instead, this year, there was the slogan, "Choose Love." Now, this sounds like no big deal. Both are valid slogans. But the "End Racism" one was a reminder of the Colin Kaepernick movement when, in 2016, this football player kneeled during the national anthem as a statement against police brutality and against racial inequality in general, but also in football. Trump came out against this at the time. Kaepernick sued the NFL for sidelining him, and it brought to light a lot of the questions about racism within the very influential league, where many of the players are black, but the decision makers are not. So the removal of that slogan, along with Trump's ending DEI programs, is widely seen as a nod of support by the NFL to the president.
Right. All right. Stepping away from politics for a minute, but not from controversy. I mean, there was a lot of suspense, of course, last night, not just about the game, but about the halftime show. Tell us.
Yeah, there was the sports suspense of whether the Kansas City Chiefs would manage to make history by winning the Super Bowl 3 times in a row. They didn't. But beyond that, many Americans, as we know, watch the Super Bowl for the ads, which raked in for Fox, the Fox channel, which hosted it, a whopping $8 million per 30 seconds of advertising, which is actually a record. And then, as you mentioned, Jeannie, there is this halftime show. In recent years, these halftime shows have become a widely discussed star-studded concert. Halftime shows actually first began in 1967 at the first Super Bowl, and they were, for many years, simply marching bands, like in normal college footballs. There was even once an Elvis impersonator. Elvis Presto was his name in 1989. Today, they are a far cry from that, with acts like Michael Jackson emerging from beneath the stage in '93, or the Boob episode between Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson, or Prince singing Purple Rain during a downpour. These are prime examples of that. As for who picks these now star-studded acts, it's actually Jay-Z and his company Rock Nation. That they've made the choices since it partnered with the NFL 6 years ago. And that has actually had an effect on modernizing it, at least to a degree. It's also added a political element. You could argue that somewhat counterbalances a bit of corporate America or the conservative NFL boards. In the least, it creates a huge draw, which in turn boosts ratings and ad dollars. And this year it did just that. Hot off his Grammy sweep before touring, Kendrick Lamar sang while surrounded by red, white, and blue dressed dancers. And Serena Williams as well did a crip walk. He did sing his famous "Not Like Us" song. It is a diss song against fellow rapper Drake, and there is an ongoing lawsuit around it and about it. The lawsuit is about whether their shared label pushed this song on platforms like Spotify. So there was suspense about whether or not he would sing it, and of course he did sing it. The Pulitzer-winning, prize-winning artist managed not only to appease corporate sponsors and potentially lawyers as well by replacing a controversial lyric where he calls Drake a pedophile. He replaced it with a scream. But Lamar also plugged his music and, you could argue, even made political statements with his response and his songs. To an Uncle Sam, for example, who was played by Samuel Jackson on stage, saying, "Too loud, too reckless, too ghetto." He went on with to play music his way, with "Not Like Us" being a showcase of that.
Wow. All right, Solange, thanks so much for that. There was a lot going on at the Super Bowl in New Orleans last night. Thank you for summing it all up for us. That's France 24's Solange Moujam.